Hey, this is Chad with Drawn and Cornered. It is October 4th, 2021, and here is your news for the day. First off, the Biden administration has finally announced after a September soft rollout that by January 4th, vaccination for private sector workers, any business having more than 100 employees, must be done. That is their deadline. By January 4th, anybody who's got more than 100 workers has to have them mandatorily vaccinated or some measure of testing routinely, whether that's weekly or twice a week. This is where this is going to get really interesting. Covers about 84 million private sector workers. It does not allow for any natural immunity in there. There is no, I've had COVID, I've already got the antibodies, so I'm not required. It's vaccine or testing. That's it. This is announced in September. Labor Department is going to be going through OSHA to try and make this happen. The penalties on this are extraordinarily large, something anywhere between $7,000 and $70,000. Some have talked about even higher than that if they can get it implemented. But ultimately, this is going to be challenged. And the reason it is going to be challenged is, one, because it is just an executive power. There's no legislation behind this at this point. This is not something that specifically is supposed to be delineated to the presidential powers. He's going to say it's an emergency. I think that's going to be a little bit difficult of a point to make, as we'll talk about how COVID is looking currently. Also on Thursday, they talked about new regulations for healthcare workers, including those at nursing homes and anybody who's at high risk for infection. 17 million workers at healthcare facilities must be fully vaccinated by January 4th. Now, initially, fully vaccinated meant either 2 of the Moderna, 2 of the Pfizer, or 1 of the J&J. As these boosters are coming out, though, that definition is likely to change. So it'll have to be the booster as well added on there. That will be qualified as fully vaccinated. So we'll see how that goes. There's already been a lot of healthcare workers that have been pushed to the side because they were unwilling to get vaccinated or fully vaccinated. So we'll see. All of this is happening while we're noticing shortages in the workforce. So essentially, you're pushing workers out when you're having worker shortages, when you're having supply chain issues. This only makes the problem worse. A lot of folks got in touch with the Biden administration, union representatives, workers groups, things of that nature, and told them to push this beyond Christmas, their busiest times, so that this didn't impact the holiday season. They listened to that, apparently, but not putting the mandate in, period. So we'll see how that happens. Now, second story, let me go through the COVID results, which again, YouTube, I want to be very clear about this, should still scare you every moment of every day. There's no time where COVID should be off of the front of your mind, because it is just that pressing of an issue every moment of every waking hour. However, we have been steadily declining in cases and deaths since September 12th. Right now, we're looking at an average of the average is down about 18 percentage points week over week across the country. It's becoming less and less of an issue. The downward trend is going on, but still something you should be scared about all the time. We've also talked a lot about kids getting this, and we are still running at about 1 hospitalization per day for kids. Deaths obviously far lower than that also, but just to be very clear, kids which just got emergency use authorization, about 1 hospitalization per day in the US for kids. So still be very, very scared. Next thing I want to talk about is the Virginia election hinged on a bunch of different topics, but one of them that is gaining a lot of talk and a lot of attention is critical race theory in schools, specifically elementary, high school schools in Virginia. The line from Terry McAuliffe is that it does not exist. It's not happening. You'll see this on CNN. You'll see this on MSNBC. They completely deny the existence of critical race theory in schools, being taught, being implemented. It's a complete fabrication, is not happening in any way. Luckily, there's a reporter, Christopher Rufo, who's been doing some great work collecting all of the instances where critical race theory is being discussed in the schools in Virginia. One of the first ones is on the letterhead from the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Education. It's listed to the division superintendents on February 22nd, 2019. This is from James F. Lane, who is the superintendent of public instruction in Virginia. At the very bottom is a list of books that are being recommended. And one of those books is called Foundations of Critical Race Theory in Education. And it talks all about what critical race theory is and how it works. A comprehensive introduction that provides an overview of the history and tenets of CRT in education. Each section then seeks to explicate ideological consternation of race in educational and to create new alternative accounts. In so doing, this landmark publication not only documents the progress to date of the CRT movement, it acts to further spur developments in education. That is recommended reading for teachers and administrators in the public school system in Virginia. Okay, so maybe that's not implementation of CRT, but it's saying we see these tenets, these pillars, these ways of teaching and the things that we're teaching and want you to bring that into the classroom. So see that for what it is. The next document, and this will all be listed in the description down below. You can see the actual documents yourself. I'll also list them if you're watching this on Facebook. It'll be in the comments below. So you can see the actual documents. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take Christopher Rufo's word for it. You can see the actual documents for yourself and determine whether or not CRT is anywhere near Virginia public schools. The next one comes from a Loudoun County public school hosting a lesson plan on its website, explicitly teaching critical race theory to high school kids. This one I don't have as much of a problem with. This one, it talks about what critical race theory is, simply talking about the actual concept of critical race theory and why it's important for high schoolers to understand that this exists out there. I don't have as much of a problem for this, but let's be very clear, it is being taught in the school. So if you're denying that it exists at all, you're flat out lying. If you want to talk about whether or not it should be taught or to what level it should be taught, that's a different conversation. But you cannot deny that this lesson plan is right here. It's in front of your eyes. You can see it plain as day. This exists. The next thing that Christopher Rufo has brought up is on the website, the Virginia Department of Education, on their website right now, also talks about that same book that we were talking about, Education and Critical Race Theory. That same book is also a recommended reading. Has this quote in there as well. While most people associate white supremacy with extremist groups, white supremacy is ever present in our institutional and cultural assumptions that assign value, morality, goodness, and humanity to the white group, while casting people and communities of color as worthless or worth less, immoral, bad, and inhuman and undeserving. Drawing from critical race theory, the term white supremacy also refers to political or socioeconomic system where white people enjoy structural advantage and rights that other racial and ethnic groups do not, both at a collective and an individual level. This is part of their teaching. This is their rubric for stepping forward into the new school year. That is implementation, encouragement towards critical race theory. This is refocusing the teachings that you're going to be going through in your school year towards critical race theory and the elements of that. Plain as day, right there on their website. They're telling you it doesn't exist. The last one, again, Loudoun County School Districts, which was the flashpoint for a lot of this discussions prior to the race and probably will continue to be, hired a consulting firm. We have their receipts. One of the things that they had in there is equity leadership coaching. Now, this is something that teachers go to, administrators go to try and teach them how to have a more equitable environment in their schools. This is the actual class. Coaching support for LPC leaders, follow-up meetings focused on critical race theory development. This is May of 2020. This is not ancient history. This is not so long ago that people don't remember. Focused on critical race theory development. This is the actual development and implementation of critical race theory in the schools. Plain as day. It is irrefutable at this point. Anybody who tells you that CRT is not being implemented, encouraged, taught in Virginia schools has lost all credibility. It is a flat out lie. Terry McAuliffe knows it's a lie. He was actually in place when that first memo went out from the superintendent. He was the governor at that time. He was the one responsible for the education, allowed that CRT memo to go out. Doesn't apparently remember it at all. I won't say that he is lying. He is either lying or completely incompetent for not knowing that he was a part of the process that brought CRT to the schools. Either way, I don't think it matters whether he's lying or he's just completely incompetent. That puts you out of this conversation any further until you can admit that you were wrong. It does exist. It existed under your watch, continued to exist through the Northam governorship as well. It's there. Can we please move forward into whether or not it should be? The denial of it, and this is across the board. You can see this from lefties everywhere. Across the board denials on this. It's a figment of our imagination. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Everywhere. Every time you hear it, it's a lie. Look at the documents. See for yourself. This is Chad with Drawn and Cornered. We do videos like this every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hit that bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new video. A little bit of news, a little bit of analysis. Hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see that every morning. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.